you think that ever shaming someone can be a form of motivation, and can it ever be a positive thing, or is it pretty much always negative?
I think in my experience, shame is never actually a good emotion to try and evoke. I don't find it to be motivational.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to drive fear and more negative behaviors.
Do you think it should be shamed then to be overweight?
No, it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Right.
But no.
Okay.
Not
So, in my opinion, right? So I'm not overweight. I'm very skinny though, right? So, from my personal experience, being a few years ago and still to this day, I'm a very skinny kid, and people talk about it or say, you're a stick, or putting their hands around my arm, right? And that kind of shaming and criticism, it motivated me to get into the gym, and now I'm starting to go to the gym. So do you think that shaming is generally a negative thing, or do you think it can be very positive and lead to someone changing themselves for the better?
It is positive too,
Mhm.
but I think for me, personally, it works negative way more than the
Negative
positive
way.
way.
Alright.
I feel inferior if someone's shaming me on something.
Right.
I would rather not talk to them or not going with those people who are trying to shame me,
Right.
rather than making myself motivate,
So you don't find it a motivator at all?
No,
Okay.
I don't really find it.
If I was going to try and pick an approach to motivate someone to do something, shame wouldn't be
Your first option.
the approach that I'd try first.
Right.
And I would even argue that for you, any fun of that you've been made for your size, I'm not trying to play the oppression Olympics, but the overall societal message that I would say obese people would get versus very thin people would get is not on the same level, and
For
not
sure, yeah.
the same kind of message. That it would, again, just not be my first option in terms of how can I motivate someone
Right.
to do either what I want them to do or what they want themselves to do.
Sure. Yeah.
Shame overall, I think, is not a good emotion to try and evoke in anyone under any circumstance.
Right.
I mean, I always believed in not judging people for what they can't control.
Right.
So, for example, if someone has an eating disorder like anorexia, or if it's genetics and they can't lose weight, can't put on weight, that's obviously something they can't control, and so you have no right to judge them based on that. But if someone close to you is eating too much or eating too little, and you deem it necessary to let them know, hey, maybe start taking a little bit better care of yourself, not because you look bad, but because I'm worried about your health, I don't really see anything wrong with that. And I think that this whole culture of empowering everyone, it's very positive, but it leads to some people not taking care of themselves and believing it's okay because society's like, well, no matter how you look, you're beautiful, and that's fine, but if you're very big, you're not healthy, and that's what matters more than how you look.
Right. And I think in today's society, we see a lot of body shaming, unfortunately. And do you think there's any form of shaming that can benefit a person when it comes to their physique?
Shaming.
So I'll give you I think shaming isn't the best word to describe what I'm kind of asking, so I'll give you an example for myself, right? So I'm a pretty skinny individual, and I was kind of chastised for it a little bit. Not only by my friends or peers, but just in general. I wasn't super secure with who I was and being underweight. So that kind of that social criticism motivated me to start going to the gym and trying to gain weight, gain muscle mass. So I think in a way, while maybe that criticism could be seen as negative generally, for me personally, that helped me to get over it and better myself, right?
Yeah. Well, I would say that it would depend on if that's what your end goal is, then the shaming or the pressure to change that helped you. But if that's not your end goal, then the pressure or the shaming is not beneficial.
Right.
You know, because take us for instance, we're rock climbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea for the rock climber is to be lean and thin and to have lean muscle, and if you're a guy who goes to the gym and gets big, it's counterproductive to what you do as a climber. So like, really, it's your end goal. So to hit your question, I would say no type of pressure or shaming would be ever beneficial in any situation, other than if a person had health issues.
Mm-hmm.
And like to better yourself, I would only say only in the sense of health reasons.
Right.
If it's because you're skinny and somebody thinks you should be more muscular, then no way that you put it, shaming or pressure in any sense,
Mm-hmm.
would be beneficial, because you get that pressure, you go to the gym, you get bigger, but then maybe that's not what you want as a person.
Right.
So then it's not helpful, because now you're doing the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And I'm the example of that. I went for a year to the gym. I gained 10 pounds of muscle. I did creatine, protein, like all things to get bigger.
Yeah.
This is about a year and a half ago. Gained 10 pounds of muscle, and I was big for my size. And we go climbing, and it's counterproductive.
Right.
It like hurts what I like to do. So yeah, so to that, no, I don't think any type of pressure, unless it is what the person's goal is. But then I would call that motivation. I wouldn't call that
Right.
shaming.
And I think it's very rare, but in my case, that shaming kind of turned into motivation,
Mm-hmm.
if you can even call it shaming.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's definitely different degrees to that, right?
Yeah, yeah.